Tick-tock, it's time to rock. It's the Sunday show. I'm here with the Rock Professor. I'm here with Brad, the backdoor man. How are you?
Hey guys, how are we going? Good?
Good.
Yeah.
Didn't see you yesterday, but the Rock Professor was sniffing around the chat yesterday when we were on the Van Halen show. It was good to see the Rock Professor there.
Somebody's got to moderate.
I missed it. I was just very busy, mate. I was actually working yesterday, so I couldn't have it on, mate. I wasn't on the ride on mower with my headphones on. I was actually doing stuff. Yeah, so
mate, look, we understand the fact that you can spend a couple of hours with us on a Sunday, given your heavy work schedule and what you got to do is always appreciated. And the Rock Professor as well, too, getting up early in the morning, jumping on and hanging out with us. And, folks, obviously adding some educational, interesting entertainment perspectives to the chat.
Really, I just come on to make sure you're just behaving yourselves and not swearing too much and kind of, keeping the standards of this channel up to where it should be.
Thanks, mate. No, we had a great time. We spent 2 hours hanging out, talking Van Halen. One of the great things, guys, as you know, you've been live with Jimmy, you've been live with John and Tanner. These guys are passionate and love the subject that we talk about. And I just let them go, Brad.
Yeah. Well, why not? They've got...
He does.
They got the floor, then they're in control, mate. Just let them take the reins and go for the ride.
Yeah, and it's always interesting though, picking up
right.
a few things. Were you aware that a different kind of truth has been taken off streaming? Yeah. So I received a couple of messages from people saying that they didn't know that. I only found out 24 hours beforehand when Jimmy sent me a message, so I wasn't up to play on it either. So, yeah, it was a little bit interesting, really? Simon, hearing some of the theories why they would remove that album off streaming services.
Is
that one of Sammy Hagar's? Is that a Sammy Hagar album?
No, David Lee Roth. That's when he returned. But Wolf is on bass on that record. But okay. I got a theory, but it's a really good reason why it's always good to have a hard copy of your favorite band's records.
You got it, bro. Get a CD, get an album,
even
a cassette tape.
Because I've always feared this with streaming services and that, and I'm not picking on them, but they can pick and choose what they like. They can, they can change the artist playlist, and when you've got the hard copy, mate, you can always put it on even if they delete it and never put it back up again. You've always got the hard copy.
Good point.
Yeah.
Some other news this week before we dive into the topic of this album. Look, and we should probably at some stage maybe think about doing something midweek. I don't know, between the three of us. The Beatles has been a big part of what we do here on this channel. We've done a lot of shows on albums and that Get Back documentary, Simon. We've done how many? Three shows on that documentary, and there's a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts. I'm not saying that we should talk about them now, but maybe we could get together during the week for an hour maybe and talk about the latest offerings from that's labeled, Brad, a Beatles song.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of mixed reactions by fans, and kind of not really understanding all the fuss, but each to their own. Everyone can have an opinion, and I'm a Beatles nut. I love the Beatles. They're my favorite band. So anything that I can get my hands on that's got, I loved Free as a Bird and Real Love when they came out, and I knew they had this song Now and Then back then, but they couldn't do a lot with it. But we should definitely do a show on this, I think, because we could possibly be here for an hour before we start the ranking.
Yeah. And look, folks, we'll organise something, because it's also, about getting the Rock Professor on. He's not retired yet, so he's not, at the channel's beck and call.
Yeah.
He still has to go to work.
Yeah. But I'll say it straight out.
When I say go,
I love it, and I got goosebumps listening to it the first time. So yeah. I'd heard the demo. I'd heard the John Lennon demo, and I fell in love with it. It's fantastic.
I think, Simon, that's probably us for the shout outs. I don't think we had anything really planned before the show. Any other shout outs? I think we've done that part of the job. Do you want to do a shout out to the shout out people?
I know you could do a shout out to the shout out people. Absolutely, yes. Good morning to Ellen. Good morning, Ellen. As usual, here. Thank you so much for coming every week. It's very kind of you. Supporting us. Phil Bias. Morning, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
I don't know what to. Yes, John ZD351. Who's John's got some positive
what
opinions
album's he
already.
ranking this week,
That's
Simon?
good. We've got Stephen Fisher. Well, I don't know. He hasn't said. He said he listened to that album, so I don't know. We'll have to find out whether he's ranking another Madonna album or something else.
Might be the Immaculate Collection this time.
Oh dear. It's yes. Good morning to Stephen Fish. Nice to see you, Stephen. Welcome. I've not seen your name before. That may be because I wasn't paying attention, but
he's been here.
But welcome anyway. And Arvin as well. Arvin, good morning, Arvin. Nice to see you. Hope you're well. That's everyone who's made a comment so far. I think. If anybody else is around, please make a comment, and I will acknowledge. I hope. It's fantastic to see you all. Thank you for
That's a
getting
good
up
idea.
If you're on
Have you seen
the northern side of the hemisphere?
Have you seen Stephen's suggestion?
Yes. Not bad idea.
I'd recommend doing our new versions of the red and blue. Oh, is there a new version coming out this week? Oh, I can get out my red and blue vinyl versions. Yeah. In red and blue vinyl, may I say. No
Brad's got the
here.
pick for next week, so we don't know what Brad's going to pick.
Well, you know what? Okay. Well, maybe we should talk in the green room about it before talk.
Yeah.
Two double albums in one 2-hour session. That's going to be pushing it, isn't it?
I think so. I think we'll be lucky to get through one of those in a session, guys. To be honest with you, I mean, there's a lot of songs on there. So
yeah.
But also, just quickly, a shout out to Jimmy Page for his first performance since 2015. So it was great to see Jimmy back up on stage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He inducted Link Ray, and he performed the Rumble. So it's one of his heroes. So it was good. Warmed to my heart to see Jimmy Page back up on stage with his double neck, and you even see towards the end he lifts the guitar up and shakes it and does the big thing. So it's just great to see. Fantastic.
Was he playing Rumble? Was he playing Rumble by Link Ray?
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. Just to show you, I keep up on modern things. You see.
Well, he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Rock and Roll.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
Well, outstanding.
Deservedly so. Fantastic record. Link Ray and the Ray Men.
It was really good to
dear.
see, and I'm really glad that you know, despite all the rumors, and that's why it's always good to put rumors, on ice and never really believe what you read, because I didn't think he was fit enough to perform anymore, and he did a great job. So well done, Jimmy.
Yeah, hopefully it might lead to something.
Yeah.
Might lead to maybe, who knows?
Yes, fingers crossed, and we're praying for
Did you
it.
see a? Did you see film of Mr. Plant singing "Stairway to Heaven"?
I did see that. Yeah, interesting. He caved for charity.
Oh,
Yeah, caved for
Is that what
charity.
he did it for?
Yeah,
Did you see that?
someone
Yeah,
off
he
the
did it for
lung,
charity.
someone
Yeah.
So
charity.
cancer research or something like that.
Oh, that's always a
Charity.
good. That's
Yeah,
all. That's a
so-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
brilliant.
Yeah.
Shouts out to him as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, any fundraising for for cancer research is always going to be a great thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, indeed.
Right. Okay, guys. I think we'll get into the
So
collective intro on Hackney Diamonds. After the intro, folks, I'm going to throw up a page from Wikipedia and just go through the chart. If you guys aren't aware of it already, the chart situation with this album by the Stones. It's an interesting read, but for the sake of what we do here on the channel, we'd like to throw in some details at the start. So this is the 26th, Brad. Check that out. 26th studio album by this band. It's phenomenal. The first original album since 2005's The Bigger Bang. And how many years after the album that they did that blues compilation that we ranked on the track, Blue, when was that? 2016, Simon.
We haven't done Lonesome and Blue.
Yes, we have.
We haven't ranked that, have we? No, we haven't.
Yes, we have.
No, we.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Well, did you do that while I wasn't looking? You did that while I wasn't looking. How very dare you?
Yeah.
That you and Carl did it. That's possible.
It's on the channel there somewhere, folks. So if you're watching on a replay, I'll attach that show card somewhere for you to go and check it out. It's interesting because we had Richard Fox on the channel, who's a good friend of ours, a couple of times. And while we generally appreciated that album, he wasn't quite into it because he appreciated, Brad, the original music from the Stones. And I get that, so it's always interesting to get that kind of perspective from different fans. But one of the great things about this album, I suppose, that we should talk about is it's the first one since the Stones' original drummer, Charlie Watts, who passed away in 2021. Also known to Simon for its collaborations, which seems to be a thing that the Rolling Stones like to do when they're playing live, at least, Brad. They like to bring on other artists when they're doing tours and stuff like that. So the fact that they've brought on a couple of acknowledged stars into the recording studio is consistent with what they do. And, I've got to tell you, before we sort of reveal too much, I think these other artists have certainly added a bit of punch to the track. So I do look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about that. One other thing too, Simon, that I found out about this when I was doing some research, mate, they filmed this in the studio. So there's a documentary coming out. There's no date, Brad, for it. But it's a DVD of at least an hour and a half's footage of them in the studio recording this. So the fact that they haven't released it already with the album, Simon and Brad's kind of interesting. But still, I think maybe something for Stones fans to look forward to, Simon.
Definitely. definitely.
Yeah.
It's
I always like
gives some
those sort of
background, won't it, into some of the working.
I like the studio documentaries and things like that. It's always great to see how they, how they got to that album point. The studio is where the magic is for the record. So it's great to see all that. I love when bands put together little bios and docos and whatnot of the studio recording process. It's fantastic. Looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, me too. I love that. I love
Yeah.
documentaries, Simon, and there's a few of them now out there, Muscle Shoals as an example, and the Wrecking Crew, Simon, that documentary. So there's a lot of good stuff out there, so for Stones and music fans, we look forward to that. What's really interesting, though, about this album is the guy that's responsible for producing it's only a young guy, and a lot of the information that I've got from some of the tracks, folks, is directly out of the December issue of the Guitar Player magazine. And I'll put a link to that on this description if you want to go and check that out, because they're interviewing Keith, and they're interviewing this guy called Andrew Watt, who's only 32, Simon and Brad. He's only a young guy. I don't know a lot about him, but you guys had some interesting information when we were in the green room about, we got a picture to fire up, but you guys had some interesting backgrounds on who he's produced.
Yeah. Well, I first heard of Andrew Watt.
He's done quite a lot of people.
When he joined California Breed, I think the album was called, with Glenn Hughes, Jason Bonham. And that album was quite good. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought his guitar playing on it was, fitted perfectly in that theme of that sort of retro rock thing that they were going for. And since then, I know he's done a lot of producing and collaborations throughout his whole career. I think one of the later ones that I remember that he did was an album with Ozzy Osbourne, and he got in Eric Clapton, he got in Tony Iommi. He's a big name in producing now, and has been for a number of years. So, yeah, it's interesting that they did use Andrew Watt, but when you listen to the record, it's got that. Well, I'm not going to ruin the rankings, but it's definitely got that sort of youthfulness edge to it. Does that make sense? I think 100%. It was a good choice.
Yeah.
And the Stones love.
I mean, he's done Ozzy Osbourne, he's done Elton John, and he's done Iggy Pop as well, and Post Malone, the Rolling Stones. So he's got quite a broad, Eddie Vedder he's done as well from Pearl Jam. Yeah. So he's got quite a varied, only age 32, and he's produced a lot of people, quite a lot, as you say, a lot of pop people like Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber and things, the Chainsmokers, Lana Del Rey. So but bringing that slightly modern sound to it, I think was a very good choice.
Yeah, 100%.
I wonder how he got. I'd be really interested to see the film, see how he got on with because obviously Keith and Mick are quite very done a lot of Mick has done a lot of producing the Stones and know what they want and stuff. I wonder how he managed to obviously saying to Mick, go and do it again. I look forward
I'll give
to
you
that.
some spoilers.
Keith,
I'll give you some spoilers during my rankings if you want. That I've lifted from the article that might give you a bit of an idea of the relationship that they had. But clearly, folks, the guy's got some pedigree there, some pop pedigree, but also he's worked with established rock artists, which is really important when you're going back dealing with these kind of guys. And from the article that I read in the Guitar Player magazine, Paul McCartney was instrumental in introducing him to Ronnie and to Keith, and they invited him to come and watch them, and while they were rehearsing, and who, Brad, in their right mind, is going to turn down a gig with the Rolling Stones anyway?
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance. It's a great thing to have on your bio, isn't it? On your resume, I worked with the Rolling Stones.
What's really interesting, Simon, and I'm sure you picked this up on your research, not only did he produce them, he co-wrote 3 songs, Simon.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and how often does that happen with the Stones? How often do they give away writing credits to other people? Not very often, do they?
No.
I was trying to think of don't know. I was just trying to think of. I was just talking to my brother about it last night, and I was trying to think of any other songs where actually they have given away. You know, they might have given the occasional one to Ron Wood, but even then, he doesn't get any writing credits on here, does he? But Andrew Watt gets 3, amazingly.
Yeah.
And
That speaks
plays
volumes,
instruments.
I think, and he plays on it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Unlike Daryl Jones, who doesn't play on it at all.
So
tribal harsh, but anyway.
yeah, phenomenal.
We
Phenomenal
could say
from
good
that
morning to Holly
perspective.
Lewis. Morning, Holly.
G'day, Holly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of reflecting before we get into the tracks, but I just want to share this with you guys. You know, we saw the Get Back session with Glyn Johns and these young producers. And we saw it with Tom Dowd, Brad and Simon. So I'm not surprised that the Rolling Stones want to be around with these young hip music guys. Because they've hung out with these guys. Who was the guy? Jimmy Miller as well, young hip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
Okay.
It's I think it's and it's also in keeping what the Stones do, isn't it? Mick is always trying to keep up and things, isn't he, with what's going on currently and things. I mean, do you think has there been? I mean, I've not really looked at any other. There seem to have been a bit of controversy about the sound and things, about modernness and things. We can get into that and we can discuss that as we go.
But it's my argument there when people do that is, well, it is a modern record. It's coming out now. What do you want it to sound like? It's come from 1960. I don't understand people when they talk like that, but it's I get it. It's a fresh sounding record it sounds like the Stones now, though. It doesn't sound like the Stones in the 70s because we're a long way
it's not
past.
going to.
Sorry?
It's not going to, is it?
So, that makes absolutely no sense. And I've heard similar things about now and then the Beatles thing, and I think, well, technology's caught up, and of course it sounds the way it does because they've used technology to enhance it. But that's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, because that's what all artists do, including all your favorite artists out there, that modern popular artists these days. They use technology to enhance their voices, to enhance everything, to make them sound big and modern. That's what they do. So it's just a recording producer's process nowadays. That's what they do. It's but the problem is you've got a band like the Stones that have been around since the 60s, and a lot of people have got their heads stuck in the sand and not prepared to move forward with where they are at this point in their career. They're 80-year-old men.
That's fine. That's fine if you want to have that opinion. I agree, Brad. If you want to have that opinion, that's fine. Yeah. If you don't like it, or if you think that it's
just to give you some.
Sorry.
I was going to say just to give you some context. Andrew Watt is 32. Glyn Johns was 26 when he produced Beggar's Banquet.
Yeah.
Some sort of context as to what there's no issues about we think, God, 32, that's young, but actually Glyn Johns was younger than that when he was producing Beggar's Banquet and Let It Bleed, 26, 27.
And Andy Johns
impediment.
And Andy Johns as well was in his early 20s as well too. Simon, Jimmy Page, another guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Howard was, but yeah. Look, I think that's an interesting point. Having these young cats around is really, really interesting. What's really cool though about the criticism that Simon is just mentioning, folks, from the quick research I've done, most of the established journalists out there have been pretty genuinely positive about this album, which is understandable.
Positive, yeah.
It's the fans. If you're on some of these big Rolling Stone Facebook groups, which I am part of, it's interesting because that's where I tend to get a lot of feedback or a lot of my feeling, because they're the fans like us guys, you know. So it's interesting listening to what some of these people have said. And I agree in a nutshell with what Brad was saying. You know, a lot of these people just want to listen to Sticky Fingers again or Tattoo You, and it's not going to happen. But there are elements of it, though.
I was just about to say, when we go through the rankings, I mean, I mentioned a few things, and I do think that they lean towards certain eras.
Yeah.
And I highlight that. So what I'm getting at is I just think people need to be a little bit more open-minded and appreciate the fact that 80-year-old men are making a cool record. It's great. It's a great record, you know?
Yeah.
All right, folks,
Agreed.
before I kick...
Yes, I did. It didn't strike me at all. I didn't think to myself at all. Oh, it doesn't sound like 1968, because I can't remember what it sounded like in 1968. But no, it didn't strike me that at all. I just approached it on its merits.
I mentioned on another episode that Steel Wheels, when it first came out, I thought it sounded really modern. Sounded very like the era that it came out. But now when I listen to it, it doesn't. It just sounds like the Stones.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Mixing the two things, yeah.
So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to just quickly go through and just have a look at Mr. Wikipedia. Mr. Wikipedia, of course, as we know, is the font of all wisdom. And I was blown away, actually, guys, when I went and had a look earlier today, and you can see where this album is number one in Argentina, Brad, Australia. So you guys have done well. Austria, Simon, Belgium, Canada. Oh my gosh, what were you saying about Canada before, Simon? Number 8.
Yeah, Canada needs to get on there. Keep up, please, because number 8 is that's not doing. And Hungary as well. We're going to be speaking to them severely offline. Get their acts together.
There's a few number ones there. Ireland, New Zealand, number 1, which is good. Norway, the UK, Simon and Brad, number 1, and number 2 and number 3 in the States.
Yes, we're keeping up in the UK.
So apparently,
other countries that are not.
Apparently, to get a number 1, it's still an achievement. It's still based on sales.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
well done.
You know, to tribute to the album that it's sold very well in lots of countries and is number 1 in lots of countries.
Yeah.
They'll take it on tour, won't they?
That really nice cartoon. Did you see that? I saw that put that cartoon up yesterday on Facebook. 2 guys. There's a picture in a record shop of says Rolling Stones number 1 hit album. Beatles release new track, and one bloke sent the other. How many? How much did those clocks go back last week? 50 years.
Awesome.
It's lovely. Very nice.
So this is the first album, folks, since 2016's Blue and Lonesome album. So it's an achievement for these guys. They've been touring, though, regularly, though, haven't they? Which is always a wonderful thing to see. Besides that COVID period there where, you know, bands weren't touring, but you know, clearly they love touring, and because of that, Simon and Brad, I expect they'll take this to on the road soon, surely.
It seems that way. Although they love touring, Andrew, because I think you know, Paul McCartney said it in an interview. What would he be doing if he retired? Just sitting around watching TV and sitting around doing nothing. So he'd rather be out performing and playing. So why not? if you can still do it at 80, why not? That's the way I see it.
Fantastic.
Quite an achievement. Yeah.
Oh,
What's Arvid
absolutely.
saying? I
Yeah,
doubt
yeah,
the
yeah,
Stones
yeah.
will
Well, it's
be still around like they sounded 40 years. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, well, the recording technology's changed amazingly in 40 years, hasn't it?
That's
But hang
completely
around,
skewed.
Arvin, for the last song, because there's an interesting story for the last song on what they tried to do, if you guys aren't aware of that. All right, shall we kick it off? First single, guys?
Don't
The
give
first
it
single,
away.
first
Yes.
first track of the
single.
album, Angry. I was fortunate enough a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, guys, to go live with Foxy and talk about this. Being one of the world's greatest Rolling Stones fans, having him on, talking about any kind of new Rolling Stones stuff was always exciting. And to catch the buzz from him, Brad, was fantastic. You know, we really appreciated the fact at the same time, too, that we could talk about the video, because videos are important. And clearly on this song, it hooked in a lot of people. It had links back to the past, which is always important for a rock and roll band, because you got to create that lineage and keep that interested and propelling sort of the new fans back to sort of your older music as well. They had a girl, rock and roll, and girls in a car. Simon, you know, you're always going to have that, you know. And
That's rock. That's rock.
But the serious part of the whole thing, I suppose, folks, was the music. You know, it was an open G riff, written, as we said earlier in the intro, with Andrew Watt. He's on the first 3 tracks as a co-writer. What's really interesting about this song for me, Brad, is that I'm glad after ranking this album that this album started with this track. It's the it's a cracker of an opener, Simon. It's the one that you want. You've got a wonderful guitar interlude there going on between Ronnie and Keith on this track. We were all excited, weren't we, with Mick singing on this track, because, you know, we've been listening to him for the last couple of years where he was rapping a little bit, so getting him into the studio singing on this was exciting. Classic Ronnie solo, Brad, on this. Look, I've spoken a lot about this on that show. I'm going to leave a little bit of room for you guys. Brad, Simon, 10 out of 10, cracker of an opener. It's a Rolling Stones instant classic. Rock Professor.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's a classic Stones riff. It's like Start Me Up, isn't it? It's got that, leave the space and just play the riff, very much a la Start Me Up. That's what struck me about it. And yeah, I agree. Jagger sings really well, and if Mr. Watts managed to get him to sing like that, then you know, that's really pleasing. I think he's really strong voice, and it's got all the elements of the Stones, hasn't it? It's got the piano in the background, some of the Ian Stewart part. It's got the great riff. It's got a kind of punchy pentatonic blues scale solo, typical Keith solo, and that space, you know, that they do, and you know, playing a sort of Chuck Berry, proto Chuck Berry licks near the end and stuff. It is, as you say, a classic Stone song, and definitely a 10 out of 10 and never a skip, one would say. Great opener, plenty of energy, plenty of drive. Yeah, really good. Brad.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Angry. I mean, from the drumming from the start of the song, it's I think we're treated to a Stones classic, which, you know, maybe 20, 30 years down the track, it'll always be a classic. You know, it's funny how songs take a little bit of time before they become a classic, and this is one of them, I think. And the riff is classic Stones. I'll put in my notes here. Mick Jagger sounds fantastic. Vocally, there's some great background vocals in the song as well. Lyrically, you know, it's fantastic. Chorus line has a definite hook. I'm going to say something that I think I repeat myself a lot in my rankings here.
Yeah.
But I think this is a statement by the Stones that even at their age, they can still rock. And it's like, it's a pretty bold statement that they're saying. I mean, musically and vocally, they're on top of their game still. Great solo from Ronnie. This song pretty much has everything you expect and want from the Stones. I really enjoyed listening to this album this week. It's really the first time I've given this album this many listens rather than have it on in the background while I'm doing things. And I think it's a great opening track for the album, and it's definite 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
We're all on the money. I'm reading everybody else's rankings, as I'm sure you guys are too now. So we're all on the money. That classic open G tuning is the deal for me, Simon. And we'll talk a little bit more about the guitar that Keith used on this when we show some photos, because Andrew in the article that Guitar Player magazine has given us a bit of a hint behind the gear that they've used, and that's good. And that's when I sort of realised, Brad, that this young fella knows his stuff, because he brought a few little surprises into the studio for these guys as well. So he knows his stuff. This guy knows rock and roll.
Yeah.
The second track, Get Close, again, it's a co-written single with, track with Watts. And as the Rock Professor pointed out, we got to mention this. The Stones don't give away a lot of writing credits. The Glimmer Twins have been perfectly adequate over the years of writing songs themselves. So to hand one over, 2, 3.
Yeah.
3.
It's an interesting point. Brad, you made something a little bit interesting in your sort of your introduction, or our general introduction to the album, about modern technology, or this album sounding modern. This is where you get it for me on this track. They haven't given us another track like Angry, which is classic Stones sounding, in my opinion. Clearly on this track you get that modern beat, that modern percussion coming through on this track. I love the cool rhythm guitar that's going on in this track, Simon. I'm assuming that's Keith. It's Keith. But what's really cool about this is that
Gotta be, isn't it?
Gotta be, yeah. What's really cool about this track for me is, again, Mick sings phenomenally well on this track. And I love the fact, too, that they brought the horns in, which, again, is a big part of what the Stones have been in the past, haven't they? With Jim... with... Who was the sax?
Yes.
Anyway... a guy that played sax and a guy that played horns for the Rolling Stones in the past. So the horns are a big part of the Rolling Stones. Bobby Keys and yeah. Anyway, go and do some research. Sorry that I didn't put those names down here for you. 8 out of 10 for me, guys. I'm ranking this album pretty seriously. It's never a skip though, Simon.
No, indeed not. And I think that's right. This, by the way, is the first track on which we get Elton John is playing piano on this. Now, interestingly,
thanks, Bobby.
They don't make a big deal about it, and they don't give him like sort of he plays the Ian Stewart part kind of thing, which I think is quite interesting. In the in the background, there's not a piano solo on it. He doesn't get a sort of showcase bit, does he? With the spotlight on him, he's just there playing, filling out the sound. Again, it's got that. I mean, I love the beginning where it's got the drums and then it's got the shakers as well. That's very Stones, isn't it? That using the shakers to just spice up the percussion a bit. And you've got the two guitars, one in the left, one in the right. The two different sounds playing as well, which is again very Stones. That intertwined guitars. Great stylized vocals from Jagger, quite declamatory on this track. But and also I will make note of it for the first time. Great smoky sax solo as well. But one of the things that I think, and we can talk about this in more detail, but is it's got a great chorus. It's got a chorus that you can sing. It's got a chorus that sticks, and I think that's what Andrew Watt brings to this. That kind of, and I have seen one or two complaints about, oh, it's got too much pop sensibility. Why have we got all these choruses, kind of thing. Well, I'm in for the choruses. Okay, I think the choruses are excellent. I think that and also there's backing singing as well, really good backing singing, filling out the vocals, and that last bit of guitar right at the end just sounds brilliant. That last kind of chord at the end just sounds really cool. Really, I was really struck by that as a thing. Yeah, I gave this an 8.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Good second track. Again, introducing the sax into it early. I thought that was quite cool, actually, introducing the sax into it early. So yeah, Brad.
Well, I don't have much more to add to this one, but I love the feel of this song. The drums are fantastic on this song. The guitars, the way they come in, Mick Jagger's on point. I think he's singing outstanding on this record, and this track in particular. I love the lyrics, the chorus line, and the hook. It has a great middle eight section, the bridge section, a classy, sassy saxophone solo. Actually sounds like, and I'm a bit controversial here, this could be on a Black Crowes record. It could have been on a Black Crowes song. It's got that vibe, but we know where the Black Crowes got it from. So, there's a bit of bleed there. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip. Andrew.
Thanks, guys. Interesting point, Steve. You're right. Yeah. I wonder how influential Andrew Watt was in that decision not to include the touring band on this album. Maybe it's something that might come out in a little bit of time, maybe. Depending on You is the next track, the third of the Andrew Watt coalition, contributions, collisions, whatever you want to call it, folks. For me, Brad, this is a song that could easily fit into that Nailcoat era of the Rolling Stones. For me, it's again one of the great things about this band, that they have elements, and there are other songs coming up, folks, that the Stones have done that. This is one part for me where I think, oh yeah, I could imagine them doing this. I love it. The solo is phenomenal, and again, Mick's vocals and the scale that he uses in the chorus on the song is just amazing, and there's other tracks coming up again too where they've got that cool chorus hit, vibe, which is important, because again, this band has had a history of playing popular music. Before they were a rock band, they were a pop band. Interestingly enough, last week we were fortunate enough to do an album that Ben Montench was a big player on, and he provides the organs and the keys on this track, and I love that. I love the fact that he's providing that kind of that atmosphere. Again, we've got some other great contributions coming up, but Ben Mont's, as the Rock Professor said, with Sir Elton John's contribution, just adds that little bit of a spark. What have I ranked this, Brad? Brad, I've ranked this 8.5 out of 10. Rock Professor.
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I agree with you about Ben Montench. He's an organ. I know I'm off mute now. It's all right. Ben Montench, he adds the organ and the piano to this, doesn't he? But it's in a mix. There's not sort of showing off. It's just that filling out the sound in that classic Stones manner, isn't it? When they always had piano and organ on their tracks, filled out with Nicky Hopkins and Ian Stewart and doing that. Billy Preston as well playing. Again, I agree. It's got a really nice clean electric guitar and the acoustic at the beginning, and again, Jagger sings really tunefully. It's got a great chorus. It's got a great melody to it, and I found myself singing it after a couple of listens, and you think, well, if I'm singing it after a couple of listens, it must be sticking. And I think, that if Andrew Watts brought that to the party, then hats off to him for doing that. We'll have some proper choruses, boys. And but in the tradition, it sounds like a Rolling Stones song. I think that I never thought that it wasn't. I never thought that he brought the sound that wasn't there. I mean, everything gets filtered through that Stone sound. You can't stop it, can you? Because it's Keith, and he only does one. He only plays one way, and it's him, and that's what he does. But I liked the guitar lead lines under the singing, doing that corner response thing. I presume it's a slide solo. I think it is a slide solo, isn't it? Kind of ethereal slide solo that I'm going with Ron Wood doing that. And also the strings near the end to just to bring it up, as take it up another notch kind of thing, that I think is really well done, really nice done, and some really nice bass playing as well that on this track particularly. I gave this 9 out of 10, never a skip. An excellent track, really good, really like it. And kind of bit more of a mid sort of ballady type song as well. That's quite early with the ballad. Brad.
Well, depending on you, I mean, when I first heard this, I think this week's the first time I've actually listened to this record, like from start to finish, and I definitely had flashbacks of Stones in their more country vibe sort of element here. Great vocal delivery from Mick Jagger, and I thought while the guitars had that distinctive sort of twang that spells that Rolling Stones like signature guitar tone for me. Great slide guitar throughout the song, and a very classy solo, slide guitar solo I put. The song definitely has a hook. It's very well written.
Yep.
It's hard to determine, or think that these gentlemen are in their 80s when you listen to this, because there's a lot of youthful energy about it. And I do credit Andrew Watt for that, the producer. So far, the album's been fairly energetic. And I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Andrew.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to take a word from you. You just used energetic, bro, to describe the album so far. Well, holy shit, bro. This next track, Bite Your Head Off, is pure energy, isn't it? And if there's one track that I'd love to see how they make on this new documentary coming up, it'll be this one, because it sounds like they had a lot of fun recording this. Great little backstory on how they got the fuzz solo, folks, on this track. If you aren't aware of it, Andrew bought Paul McCartney a Hofner bass, and he gives it to Paul McCartney, and Paul McCartney's going, oh, wow, what a nice thing to do, You've given me a 62 Hofner bass, thank you. So he gives it to him, but Andrew's done something to this bass, and he gives it to Paul, and Paul plugs it in, and then Andrew switches the switch, and he's put this little Vox fuzz unit in there. And that's what you can hear in the solo. And apparently, Paul McCartney had this big, holy shit smile, what's going on? Loved it. And it's those kind of little tricks and that kind of little bit of producer's magic, Simon, that I think Andrew provided to this band, knowing that Paul McCartney would like, a classic bass, and being given it to him by a cool producer. Nice touch, fantastic. I love it. Clearly this song has got the punk vibe going on it, and the Rolling Stones have been mucking around with punk music on a couple of albums, so they're no stranger to it. In fact, in '78, when they're touring America, Mick Jagger's wearing that classic punk T-shirt, Simon, Destroy. with the anarchy symbol as well, so they, not only are they sort of, echoing a bit of that punk movement in some of their 70s albums, they're doing it as far as fashion, which is always a big part of who the Rolling Stones are as a band as well. Again, one of those great things on this track that they're going back to that thing that they've done before. I love it. I love the fun that's coming through. Ronnie Brad uses Keith's yellow Les Paul Jr. on this track. So that's one of the reasons why it sounds so good, because that Les Paul Jr. with that P90 pickup going through those little tweed amps just sound like dynamite, and clearly it does. I love the adult words that Mick uses in the song, and it's it's not bad the way that he's using it. I think I used it to advertise the show on Instagram, one of the verses a couple of hours ago, folks. So sorry if anybody got upset by that, but that wasn't me. That was Mick Jagger. Look, Simon, because they sound like they're having fun, Paul McCartney's involved in this track. We knew that it was going to be magic, and for me it is. It's just fantastic. I love it. It's a 10 out of 10. The Stones go off on this track. I love it. Rock Professor.
Yeah, it's got that kind of. I feel like it's got that kind of Iggy Pop vibe to it, isn't it? That it's kind of got that sort of punky, kind of fast riff over fast drumming and stuff. And Jagger is very declamatory mode, kind of angry and shouty thing. It's it has that kind of going back to that the Stones influenced by punk kind of thing that is quite interesting. But and also, as you say, that fuzz bass, and you can hear, can't you, in the background at 2 minutes 18, Jagger saying, "Come on, Paul, let's hear some bass," kind of thing, and before they get to the solo. Yeah, I gave this an 8 out of 10, never a skip. But definitely a different side to the Stones, and contrasting with the previous track, and good 8 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Brad.
It bite my head off. I mean, I'm going to use the word energetic again. It's a great energetic song. It's got that feel. The drums are slamming in this song, great, and the vocal delivery is fantastic. Mick's really on fire in this track, as they all are actually. Very catchy chorus. I love the lyrical content, as Andrew was alluding to. The naughty words in there just give it a little bit of edge. Kind of felt a little bit that punk element in there, which is great. It's great to hear Paul McCartney playing bass with the Stones. I thought that was really cool that they got him in, and I know Keith Richards was like, "You're not going anywhere till you lay down some bass," or something like that, that effect. So I thought that was really cool that they managed to nab Paul McCartney on their song, which is fantastic. I mean, the breakdown where Paul McCartney's playing just before the solo, that gave me goosebumps, really. I think, with recently just seeing Paul McCartney live and the Now and Then thing coming out, just I'm on a real Paul McCartney buzz. And then hearing that this week, I'm just like, man, this guy's unstoppable. So, again, a great guitar solo as well. Again, for a bunch of guys, in their 80s, they're kicking ass like bad. You can't really knock this album. And I've given this one 10 out of 10, and it's never a skip. Andrew.
Fantastic, bro. You're right, Stephen. That's the album, Some Girls. That's got a bit of that punk rock elements to it. And we've ranked that album too, folks, on the show. So if you're watching on a replay, we'll attach a link to that as well. Favourite album for us as well. Certainly one of their masterpieces. Hold on, I can't read my own writing, Brad. Whole wide world. I was going to say we are the wide world. whole wide world. I'm going to pinch a little bit of what the Rock Professor said a little bit earlier, folks. What's really interesting about this song is that it starts off very similar. When you hear it, it's very similar musically to the previous track. But where this song flies off on its own direction immediately, and it's a surprise, is the beautiful melody of the chorus, Simon, that you've mentioned, that we've had hints before on a couple of other tracks. We definitely get that beautiful melody, in my opinion, on this track. And the way that Mick sings with the melody as opposed to rapping in the past is just phenomenal. I couldn't believe that I was listening to this the first time I heard it. I think I had to go back and listen to this a couple of times. Musically, it's fantastic. But having said that, though, Rock Professor, I'm not quite going to give it a 10 out of 10, but it's definitely, a standout vocal performance for me. As far as that chorus, the beauty of the chorus and Mick Jagger, and I'll leave you guys some room, but it's a 9 out of 10 for me, and it's never a skip.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I think that's one of, clearly, I would assume that that's one of the things that Andrew Watt brought to this, the production of this is that strength in the choruses and really going for the melody in the choruses as well. I think that maybe the Stones didn't quite do it in the same way as they've done it on this album, and I think for me that's a positive move, and as you say, Jagger stings really strongly on this, and I think that as you said earlier, the singing is really important, on this record. I think that he, that getting away from that kind of semi-rapping thing is actually really cool, and getting back to proper strong singing. And if at 80 years old you can be singing like this, it's doesn't have to get wildly out of his range, does he? Just need to, if you sing properly and keep your pipes in order, it sounds really good. And I think that it's yes, as you say, I think that also I'd say the thing about it that struck me was that it's quite an 80s sound with that phaser guitar on it. That's what struck me the most about it, is having that phaser guitar on it was a very kind of 80s thing. But the key part is the melodic chorus and stuff, and the great lyrics as well, and the whole "Why World's Against You" and you're standing in the rain. It's kind of, we've all had that experience. So nice solos as well, good solos in it as well. 9 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Brad.
Whole Wide World, it's one of my favorite ones on the record. The more I listen to it, the more I really get into it, and it has definitely got an older Stones feel to this, with that phase pedal I've mentioned here, Simon. So bringing that back into the sound is a big part of this song. I think very catchy chorus, Mick Jagger singing fantastically on it. Another wonderful example of that statement I was referring to earlier, that the Rolling Stones still kick ass, and they still rock. That bass line is great. Guitar solo. The outro to the song was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And may I add, bring back the phase pedal. It's very cool. I enjoyed that. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10, and never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for mentioning the phase pedal. I think that's again, and I'm not going to conclude after you guys, but again, got to leave some meat on the bone for the co-hosts. But Brad, you're right, and Simon, about the phase, and that goes back to the album Some Girls, where it's on 3 or 4 tracks, that phaser where Keith was falling in love with it. And that's about the time, I think, the mid-70s, where the phaser was the big effect, Brad, wasn't it? So You
It
know,
was.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I say bring it back,
One of
guys.
the
Bring it
first.
back.
That's probably the first. But
yeah. Okay, so one more track, folks, and I'm going to flick through some picks because there's 12 tracks and we're up to number 6 on this. What's Greg saying here? Andrew, just a question. Do any of those solid body guitars you have a joint in the middle would be... What do you mean by a joint in the middle, brother? I don't know. We can talk about that. Dreary Skies. Okay, fantastic. Brad, the fantastic intro by Ronnie on the dobro on this. It's just fantastic. I've got to be careful what I say here, but I'm going to just call it as I see it because we're family and friends here. When I first heard it, I thought, wow, this is going to be great. This is fantastic. And then Mick comes in and, you know, he sings a song. And I listen to this track and I listen to this track and I just can't get into this track because there's a spark missing for me from the vocals on this, and I don't know what it is. Hopefully you guys might be able to, and the people in the chat, we've got some Stones nuts in here, might offer a perspective. You know, we've been praising how great Mick has been singing on previous tracks. But for me, there's something missing on this track that just doesn't do it for me. The guitars on this track offer so much. There's so much potential there. But the performance by Mick just doesn't do it for me. So because of that reason, Simon, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It's never a skip, don't get me wrong. But it's just there's not a bite. There's 2 bites taken out of the sandwich, Simon.
Simon, I think you're on mute, buddy.
sorry, mute again. The first thing I'd say about it is that is that I really like this. I think first of all that it's a contrast from what's gone previously. That's definitely that country vibe to it that the Stones do so well. That kind of, you know, it's got that 5/4/1 chord sequence, classic chord sequence. As you say, the dobro, Ronnie Wood's dobro is really great. Or an acoustic bass, it sounds like to me, and just kind of brushes to kind of, you know, lighten the mood, lighten the style of it, change the emphasis completely. I'm a sucker for a 5/4/1 chord sequence, I have to say. I think Mick sings quite laconically in this. He's got laconic style on this, but actually I really liked it, and nice harp solo as well. So introducing names like country road, and also the Mick playing the harmonica solo. And I would say no one does this type of song like the Stones, really. You know, some really nice key flicks at the end. I give it a 9 out of 10. I really liked it. I think the contrast with the previous tracks is really good, and I think that that harking back to, you know, that kind of country vibe that they do so well is also really cool. And I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I would never skip it. Brad. Guys, while you do that, I'm just going to go and restart my modem a minute because I'm a bit laggy, so I'll just go and sort my life out a minute. I won't be a minute. I'll be back in the photos.
No worries. All right, for me, what have I put? I've put here Dreamy Skies, great laid back feel. There's a real, I don't know, I love the resonator style guitar, Andrew. I've always have that sort of guitar that is being played there, and I love that tone. And I think that gives it a lot of color, just the guitar sound itself. Mick Jagger sounds like Mick Jagger from the 80s here. Has a catchy feel to the vocal melody. I really enjoyed the solo with the harp and the guitar together. I've put here catchy, fun song, and I originally ranked it a little bit lower, but I've ranked it after listening to it all week a 7 out of 10. So I go 7 out of 10, Andrew, and never a skip.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, again, it's interesting. Music's always going to be different. We're going to have some different opinions, folks, on the tracks. And no, it's not a country song, Holly. It's it's a kind of bluesy kind of song. So
I did actually put here, great laid back feel, has a bit of a Delta blues feel to me. That's what I put in my notes.
Yeah, and that's where I got excited when I'm hearing that. I'm thinking, oh, they're going to go somewhere, and then the vocals. Don't get me wrong, just you don't match where I thought initially the music was going to take me, folks. So anyway, now it's pick time. So give me a second, and we'll put these. You guys keep talking in the chat there while we do this. We don't have too many picks because, all right. So that's a recent pick, Brad, of the Stones there. You can see them there having a great time. Telecaster, and there's Ronnie there with his 54 or 55 Strat.
Yep.
He loves that, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Some mojo with that guitar, Andrew.
These are the riff master there again, folks.
Yeah.
These are recent picks. There he is there. The riff master.
Great pictures.
Yeah, thank you, bro. And this is a photo from the latest Guitar Player magazine. So I think this is a still from his solo album that came out. Otherwise, he's wearing that jacket, that alligator skin jacket, which is so cool.
That's a great pick.
So there's Ronnie playing a Firebird.
Yep. Great sounding guitar.
Right, so that is the Les Paul Jr. that Keith used on Open G. According to the interview with Andrew, he used that for Angry, which is interesting because I would have thought he would have used the Telecaster, but he's the rock professor, but according to Andrew Wood, he used this on Angry, and Ronnie used it on that track that I mentioned, the one that they did with Paul. Andrew also said that Ronnie bought in that Zemetis. Is that how you pronounce it? Zemetis?
Zemetis. Yeah.
Zemetis. So apparently, so every time, according to the again to Andrew's article, every time Ronnie plugged in that bloody guitar, they got him to sing "Stay With Me" by the Faces. So and they would all sing it. So I hope that's in the video.
Nice.
Yeah, I hope that's in the video. So Ronnie bought that guitar. Now this is where it's a little bit interesting because Andrew said that Keith just bought in his 4 amps. So these are the 4 amps. Number 3 Fender Twin there, this one here, which is a number 3 one. And that's the second one. And these are these two little white amps here. How would you pronounce that? Oahu?
Yeah, Oahu. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Oahu. Yes, probably.
So these are small little custom amps made by a guy in America, and Keith bought 10 of them. Simon,
like a mini stack wall.
well, when he likes stuff, apparently, so he bought 10 of them, and he liked them so much he put another order in for 20. So in this rig here that he's got 2 amps. So he's got one set on Crunch, Brad, and the other one, Simon, he's got set on completely clean.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And that's his basic setup. This is the amps that he uses, Brad and Simon, on tour. and the
Yep.
amps that he brought in to the studio.
Wow.
But what Andrew did, Andrew had some gear. Andrew, again, those two little Ahu amps there. So it's a pretty basic kind of setup, and we like that, don't we? We kind of and that's a photo there of Andrew, the main instigator, the main player behind this album. But what he did, Simon and Brad, according to this article, is that he had a couple of dumbbells, Brad, in the studio as well. And apparently and apparently Keith came in and plugged in and went, you know. So if you're a guitar player and you're going to have dumbbell amps, Brad and Simon.
Yeah, you're going to play, aren't you? You're going to play them for sure.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah. I'm glad the rock professor said he would. No, I'm not playing those. I'm just going to play my little Vox AC10.
Yeah. Get off. Take that modified rubbish away. Good Lord, I would be playing that. Oh dear.
But yeah, just the basic setup, Brad and Simon, according to there it is there. And he plays through. If you have a look here on this one, when he's touring, he's playing through Mesa Boogie cabinets.
Mm.
Of course he is. Yeah, it looks like Oahu amps is quite an old thing. There's quite a lot of stuff in here. I'm just looking on the internet from like 1942, kind of 5-watt amps, the kind of like very old ones. So they clearly have some sort of a lap steel sort of history to them. Interesting.
Yeah, they've got a wonderful website, and there's a whole history there. And again, if I get some time, folks, I promise if you're watching on a replay, I'll attach that website for you to go and have a look, because that's where I got the information about Keith buying these amps. You know, because clearly they are chuffed, Brad, that they have an association with one of the greatest guitar players in rock and roll history. So,
absolutely.
Simon. Just a simple setup, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, it's what you'd expect from Keith, wouldn't you? You wouldn't expect a David Gilmour-esque kind of pedal board, would you? And all of that kind of thing. I expect him to be going pretty much straight in, and pretty much, and my guess is that. What do you think? I'm sure Keith doesn't change his own pedals. Do you think? I think he has a man to do it for him, don't you, in the back going, yes, I need the phaser on for this one. They are. Off you go, boss.
I don't think he tap dances on stage no more.
No, because he falls over. He's bad enough.
No.
There we are. It's a product of age, falling over.
You're right, Holly. A Firebird is a neck through guitar. Fantastic.
Yeah.
They're a fantastic guitar. Yeah. So, and John ZD351 is there. Founded in Flint, Michigan. Defunct, but somebody, a guy in Ohio, I think, if I remember rightly, sort of managed to resurrect it or whatever. But highly sought after gear. When you've got one of the greatest rock and rollers in the world using your gear, why not? We're up to the track 7, guys. Mess It Up. Is that correct?
Yep.
Mess It Up. That's the one. Let's mess it up, boys.
Brad, this is a track for me when I heard it. And, you know, I'm still going to stand by it after, a dozen listens. This could easily slot into Tattoo You for me. It's one of those great things, one of the great elements of this album. It's got a rock and roll vibe. But, Simon, it's got that commercial radio thing going on too, which is what a lot of the songs on Tattoo You had. They had a lot of those kind of radio songs. And I'm going to this is where I can jump in and say, Brad and Simon, I think this album that we're ranking is the best album that the Stones have done, besides Blue and Lonesome. since Tattoo You. You know, the other albums that they've done have been okay. Steel Wheels and Bigger Bang have been good albums, great albums. But this is the best album for me since Tattoo You. And I like the fact, though, again, it's a constant theme that we've been having here with the co-hosts about this commercial aspect of the songs, of the tunes, and that's not a bad thing. I love the chorus, Simon. Again, you know, we're going to repeat a lot of what we're saying, but the chorus on this is just fantastic. And Keith on rhythm, Brad just nails it again. It's a great track. I've given this 8 out of 10. Rock Professor.
Yeah, couldn't agree. I think it's a classic Keith riff, isn't it? When he comes in that, and they got that kind of, you know, that playing in the background before they actually come in and stuff. And of course, this is a track with first track with Charlie Watts on drums.
Yes.
Which is it's you know, it's and as you said, you know, and I won't repeat you, but you know, the kind of distorted bass is and that great chorus, but it's got that great Stones groove to it as well that only they can do. And then you've got towards the end, you've got that kind of funky guitar part as well, which is quite a sort of throwback to 80s Stones, which I really liked. Yeah, great track, and I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. But I would never skip it. And I think again, I like the fact that they contrast the tracks. You know, they still got the Stones vibe, but they're contrasting the previous track with this one. So you know, Dreamy Skies is very much an acoustic kind of thing, but this is much more kind of upbeat, up tempo song. If you're going to look at it this way, to open side 2, and you know, I think that yeah, great 8 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Brad.
Well, Rock Professor, I think you read my notes because I think this song opens side 2 on the LP, doesn't it? So I put great opener for the side 2. Great up-tempo feel, classic Stones sound, great vocal delivery from Mr. Jagger, from Mick. I put a very catchy chorus. The theme of the chorus seems to be ongoing between the three of us, and it's great drumming from Charlie Watts. You know, bless him, rest his, you know, soul. He plays fantastic on this. You know it's him playing. You just know it's him. I'll put here fantastic guitar throughout the song. I know I sound like a broken record with this statement thing that the Stones are trying to, you know, their statement is we rock, we can still rock, and that's what I keep referring to, and they definitely do on this. They keep rocking, and at their age, you know, we should be thankful and blessed that these guys are still releasing music like this at their age. So this song I gave 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Andrew.
Fantastic. Appreciate you guys' comments and your scores, and you folks in the chat as well. We always appreciate them. Live by the Sword. So the Rock Professor alerted you guys to a track that Sir Elton John played on. Sir Elton John. Get Close. This is the second track. He's a Sir, isn't he?
Sir Elton John, yeah. Sir Elton John,
yeah.
Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Mick Jagger.
I just had one of those moments, you know. Brad, you don't know these things because you're not grey. It's called a grey moment.
No, I still have grey moments, mate. Don't worry. I still have them.
So Sir Elton John plays on this track, and again, you know, his contribution is fantastic. Did you guys notice how Mick has gone back to rapping on the vocals on this track? You know, he's rapping a little bit as opposed to singing. The guitar weaving on this track is fantastic, and you know, you've got that wonderful solo by Ronnie. It's a fantastic solo. I thought it was Ronnie, and now I'm going to ask you guys because I can't. And then I listened to it again, and there's a lot of double stops on this track, Brad. So I thought, well, this because Ronnie doesn't double stop. So I'm thinking Keith might be playing the solo on this track, and I can't find any information to confirm that. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say and the people in the chat. So I'm pretty sure it's Keith. Those double stops are a giveaway. And we had a wonderful comment by John ZD351 before where, isn't it great that you've got the original bass player and the bass player from the Rolling Stones playing on this album? And this is where Bill Wyman comes in, doesn't he, and plays bass, according to the information that I have in front of me. And, you know, that's a nice gesture, isn't it? You know, that the Stones have done that, you know, to get Bill on board. I'm sure he would have loved to have done that. And again, Brad and Simon, I can't wait to see how that's caught on that DVD. It'd be great to see that, because it's near on 30 years, Simon, since Bill Wyman has recorded with the Glimmer Twins.
Yeah, that's right. 1989 or something was the last time he played with them. Yeah. Darryl Jones has been in the Stones for longer than Bill Wyman. So,
that's back when Brad was doing a paper run.
Yeah, was he even ready to do a paper run in 1989?
Probably not.
No,
he's probably still writing with crayons.
He's in shorts.
I still do, guys. I still write.
Still writing crayons. Yeah. Got to have one of these, you see.
Yeah.
It's the electronic version
of writing in crayons. Guys, I've scored this. You know, originally I've had trouble scoring this. You know, originally I had it at 8, then 8.5, and then you know, the double stops is worth half a point, so I'm going to give this 9 out of 10. But I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say, Rock Professor and Brad and everybody else in the chat on this track. Rock Professor.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I too had written down bluesy double stop solo. Yes, and then I couldn't work out whether it was Keith or Ronnie, which I guess is kind of what they want, really, isn't it? They want, you know, that, as we said a lot on this channel, you know, there's that kind of intertwining guitars, and later on the solo at the end, they do that kind of intertwining guitars, and you don't really know who's playing what and who's doing it and stuff. And I think that's you know, that's great. It's part of the Stones mythology, isn't it? Is you're never quite certain who's playing what, and that's what they want. So it's great. As you said, Bill on bass and Sir Elton on nearly enough nights to make a chess set.
And Charlie on drums.
And Charlie on drums, you see. It's and Elton clearly filling the Ian Stewart role. As I say, kind of,
yeah.
And this is not good. Quentin James. Good morning, Quentin. Hope you're good. That, interestingly, I think that, you know, I think that's one of the important things, and I say that as a positive thing, that, you know, the guests just slot into what the Stones are doing. They're not, you know, there's no kind of elbowing everybody else out of the way. And we're going to give you this special, well, there is one exception to this, but we'll come to that. But for the most part, you know, when Elton plays or Paul McCartney plays, they are playing the bass or the piano, whatever, and doing what they're doing, you know, and they fit it in with the track. And there's, you know, there hasn't been a lot of, you know, well, right, we're going to give Elton a piano solo because he's you know, because he's Sir Elton. He just plays, you know, plays on the track and is part of the track. And I think that's good. I think that's the way to use people, to be honest. Unless you want to actually bring him in and say, we want you to do a solo on this bit. But I think for the most part, I approved of the fact that they didn't, you know, they didn't just construct a track round, you know, 30 seconds of Elton John playing piano kind of thing. You know, they had the songs, you come in and play on it, and that's fine. I agree with you about Mick. He does, for me, Mick does that voice. He does that more declamatory style on the first couple of lines, and then he goes back to more normal singing, so as if there's a kind of, you know, the contrast for the singing bits. But I think another great track, and again, you know, different vibe to it, especially with Charlie on drums. 8.5 out of 10, never a skip. Brad.
Live by the sword and die by the sword, I say. They put a good fight in with this one. It has a real gritty feel. You can definitely tell Charlie Watts is playing drums on this again. It's great to hear Bill Wyman's bass playing. You think Bill Wyman, Charlie on the song, the old rhythm section. Again, it's pretty comforting thought, when you listen to it like that and think about it like that. I'll put here catchy vocal chorus and melody from Mick Jagger. I said he sounds great in it. Great guitar solo. Again, I thought it was Keith. So I put great guitar solo by Keith. I could be wrong, but as you pointed out, Andrew, Keith is the double stop king. So I thought it sounded more like a Keith thing than a Ronnie thing to me. Nice piano playing from Elton John, Sir Elton. And I really got, the more I listened to this song, the catchier, and the more I felt like I enjoyed the song. So for that reason, it's not a 10 out of 10, it's a 9 out of 10 and never a skip.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Andrew. Fantastic. Okay. Driving me too hard. You know,
so many different ways.
Which is what you do to us.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because I've been saying that about my bosses my whole life. Just driving me too hard, man. Again, I'm really, really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, because this is clearly, when I heard this is where the Stones are in the swing, Simon and Brad.
Yeah.
We're not getting that on. We're getting rock and roll on the beat with these other tracks. But clearly, if there's a track where they're falling a little bit behind and they're swinging on this track, it's this track for me. But they don't do much with it. It just sort of meanders along. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go in any interesting directions for me, Brad and Simon. It's if it qualifies as the first album filler, for me, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we've rated masterpieces and ranked masterpieces that have had 2 or 3 album fillers, haven't we? So for me, this is the first album filler on the album. Again, shows potential, but doesn't deliver. 7.5 out of 10 for me, Rock Professor.
Yeah, should have been the second last track on the album.
It should have been. Yeah. It should have been. Yeah.
As it is, this album is going to disprove my theory once again. But anyway, then we'll get to that. So, for me, I know what you mean. It's got that. I mean, like, you gotta love that typical kind of Keith riff, slightly behind the beat start, haven't you? That only he can do that kind of
We
chug.
love Quentin. We love Quentin, Greg.
Quentin, yes. And he's Quentin with all his medical woes. Quentin, I hope you feel better soon, mate.
Yeah.
I know you've been having lots of aggravation with your knee and stuff.
Quentin is a pop. He's a poppin'. He's a poppin' friend. He just pops in and pops out. He's not a stayer like you, Greg.
But he's always popping in, and we love him for
in.
it. Yeah, he does.
He's the guy that comes in and has 5 quick stubbies, whereas the rest of us here, we'll drink the whole box slowly over the whole evening.
Yeah. Shots. Oh dear. So I think that I like the country feel with the slide guitar. I think that's very cool. Again, that's kind of country thing that they bring in. Sweet backing vocals as well. I think, shout out to the backing vocalists. And nice solo, nice melodic solo as well. I know what you mean. It just kind of goes from beginning to end, doesn't it? And you've got a nice piano at the end, and just you can hear an organ just playing at the very end. So I've missed. I gave this 7.6 out of 10. Clearly, clearly I missed. I put a 6 instead of a 5, so I'm sticking with 7.6 because that out of 10, but not a skip because I do like it as a song. It's fine. But, yeah.
Cheers. Thanks, Greg.
Brad.
Yeah, Driving Me Too Hard. That's a song that Simon and I discussed this at length about Andrew. He drives us too hard, too damn fast all the bloody time. And the Stones wrote a song about it. So, Simon, we need credit, mate.
They've heard of him. Andrew, the slave driver, Walton.
No, we're just joking. Now, this song starts off, I say starts off pretty, starts off like a classic Rolling Stones sort of feel. It has, when it first started, I thought they were redoing Tumbling Dice or something like that.
Yes.
I thought, what's going on here? Catchy chorus and vocals, melody, great musicianship throughout the song. But I can't really say much more than that about the song, or more than what my co-hosts have already said. I enjoyed the song, don't get me wrong. It's never a skip. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Never a skip, guys. Andrew.
Yeah, we're on this money. Holly,
Yeah.
sorry, Ellen's given it a 7.5 too, I think, as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holly's querying my 7.6.
Look, clearly we don't know math on this channel.
Clearly, I know math. I've got all the formulas to work out everything, and I can tell you what things are if you want. But we don't want that. But yes, clearly I can't tell what's the difference between 5 and 6 in the typing stakes. It's not big enough on the keyboard.
Folks, we're on to Tell Me Straight, and if you guys are aware, if you're long-time Rolling Stones fans, you'll know that Keith, for a long time, has always loved to jump on and take a lead vocal, Simon, and, this is his opportunity. He came out a few years ago with a solo album called, what was it called? It came out in 2016.
Oh, what? Lonesome and Blue? Blue and Blue?
No, his solo album. Hold on.
Oh, sorry. Blimey. Hold on. Keep talking. I'll goggle it.
You Google it. And obviously he's done solo stuff with the Expensive Winos as well, which is really, really good. Go and check it out. What, have you found it?
Hold on. Stop that. Bloody jumping around. Cross-Eyed Heart.
Cross-Eyed Heart, yes. So go and check that album out too, folks, and the Expensive Winos. So he's done all this great stuff, and Cross-Eyed Heart, is 75% great. It's got some great tracks on there, Brad. But again, Keith jumps on this, so I've got to be careful because I love Keith.
Yeah.
But I've got to call it, Brad, like I said. There's too much reverb on his vocals. I don't know why they've done that, because we all know that Keith Richards sings like Keith Richards. Why would you put reverb on Bob Dylan? Everybody knows what Bob Dylan sounds like. So I'm a little bit concerned that they've got too much reverb on the vocals. I don't like that. Simon, also the drums in the mix on this, the drums are just too high in the mix. It's just too much drums, and again, I don't like that. And what's really interesting is the keys, the keyboards could have been pushed up a little bit more higher, and the song could have been completely different to my ear. I love the solo. The solo was cool, but there's too much going on in a negative way for me to rate this any more than a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very difficult with this, isn't it? That it's basically, it's Keith doing. I mean, doing vulnerable Keith, and I think in terms of that I really like it as a song. I really like the contrast with the previous tracks. I like the fact that he, always Keith does a song on it, singing. I think the vulnerability that he's got is fantastically affecting in many ways. I think that it's, that kind of not hugely strong singing is, but the message of the song, is very strong, and I think that that it's great. I know what you mean though, that bit of backing vocals on the chorus, bit of nice piano, but maybe a bit more, and a great soaring solo as well. I think the solo, but I know what you mean. There is something maybe a bit lacking about it a bit. That I gave it 7.5 out of 10, but I wouldn't skip it. I think that it's, that it fits in with the album. It's it's the contrast that you like, and I could see a lot of people giving this a 10. I could see that it affecting people, and I've seen people say that they found it really affecting and stuff, and keep singing and stuff, and playing the acoustic, and I could see a lot of people giving it a higher score than that. But I think that's on balance. That's where it is, and we'll pass it over to Brad for a much more educated.
Clearly.
I don't know about more educated, but
Edificated.
All right. Well, to be honest with you guys, I was waiting on the first listen through of this record for the Keith number. I was waiting for it because they seem to be my favourites on each Stone record. I love Keith's contribution vocally. I think he puts I don't know, he puts the Izzy Stradlin into the Stones for me, or vocally, I think. But first listen through, I really loved it. I thought, wow, there's a spooky element to the song, and I understand what you mean, Andrew, about the reverb, but this it gives it a spooky element. I think maybe that's what they were going for. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what they were going for, but the more I listened to it, I just kept thinking this is unmistakably the tone of Keith Richards. Like his vocal is fantastic, great lyrics. I love the lyrical content. I love how Mick Jagger comes in singing the background vocals with him. I think that's goosebump material when the two of them are singing that the chorus together and the BVs. I really love the guitar solo. I thought it was great, and I definitely think it's. I'm going to go against the grain a little bit, and I apologise, gentlemen, in advance. But I think it's one of the highlights of the record for me. I really enjoyed it,
Cool.
and I am one of those people, Simon, that gave it 10 out of 10 and never a skip. So
Yeah.
I apologise for going against the grain because we've been pretty on point for the majority of this record, but maybe I'm biased and I love Keith so much that I think, but I've ranked this album in accordance with, very fairly.
You feel?
Yeah, and it touched me a lot this song. I enjoyed it a lot. So go back and listen to that background vocal where Keith comes in singing with him. There's something eerie about the song, and I love the lyrical content. So 10 out of 10, gentlemen, never a skip. And I'm sorry.
I completely agree with that. As I said, I think that lots of people, you include, would easily be giving it a 10 out of 10, and I think would be very affected by it and stuff. And I know exactly, what you mean exactly with that, and I think that's a completely fair score in my book. Absolutely, and I think that it's I think it's more than anything, I think it's one of those Marmite moments, isn't it? You're either going to absolutely love it, or you're going to be a bit or not so much. But I don't not love it. I do think it's great, and that vulnerability, I think, is that is there is great, and that's what makes it as a track.
Yeah,
as a thing. But no, hats off to you for giving it a 10. I wouldn't disagree with that.
No, I wouldn't either. And I'll go back and listen to it. I'll think the reverb. Never thought about the reverb, given it that spookiness. But yeah, good point. Thanks, guys. Thanks also, everybody, for your comments and rankings too. Ellen thinks it's a 7 out of 10, so she's probably going to have to go back and renegotiate this track as well.
We're all going to stand in the corner. Shame.
Maybe I need to stand in the corner and reassess my score.
Oh no, 10 out of 10.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. It's fine.
No. Yeah, a 10 out of 10 is always a good score. Guys, I mentioned earlier in the intro that we were fortunate enough to have Richard Fox on the channel about a month ago after Angry was released, and we spent an hour and a bit talking. And at that time, when Angry was dropped, they released information on who the Stones were collaborating with. So we knew, didn't we, Brad, that, you know, Elton John was there, and we knew that Paul McCartney was on another track and Bill was coming in, and, you know, and Lady Gaga was mentioned as a collaborator. And I remember distinctly having a conversation with Foxy saying, Lady Gaga, nah, you know, kind of writing that off before we heard it. And I suppose that's one of the great things about doing a show like this, is that, you know, we can have our thoughts and ideas about something before it's released and then go back and renegotiate them after it's released. And I was fully behind Richard when he said, I'm not really interested in listening to this Lady Gaga track, me included. When this album came out and I was listening to it, and, you know, I was looking at it at the runnings, the times, Brad and Simon. Oh shit! This is 7 minutes.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and I put it on, and I was blown away. I was 100% blown away by this track. Brad, I've had the fortune with you to speak to you in private messages over the last couple of weeks where you were talking about your experiences of going to Paul McCartney, and, you know, you got goosebumps and you got, you know, something came over you when you went and saw, you know, and so this is in the back of my mind at the same time when I'm listening to this and I'm going, this is exactly what I'm feeling when I heard this track. I think it's just phenomenal. The intro is fantastic. And Mick just sings so good. He's just saving his best for this track. It's just phenomenal. And then again, folks, you have a look at the people that have contributed to this. You got Stevie Wonder apparently on the keyboards, Brad and Simon. I wanted to dislike this song, but, you know, I'm telling you guys, I can't. And then Lady Gaga comes on, and you know that famous song on Let It Bleed, Give Me Shelter.
Exactly.
You know, and one of the greatest songs ever. I'm convinced of it, guys, that within the next couple of years, when Brad is grey like me, I'm convinced this track is going to be up there with these fine tracks that these English guys have done with these artists, these backup singers, these other singers. It's just a phenomenal song. I'm going to leave some room for my co-hosts here. I'm going to give you my ranking, and then maybe I'll come in and do a conclusion. It's my favourite track on the album by far. I've given this a Brad score. Just blew me away. It's just incredible. Rock Professor.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I first heard it because it was the second kind of single off the album, and I watched and I saw it on YouTube, and I thought, oh, I wonder what that's like. Get it on, and like you, from the very start, that gospel piano at the very beginning, you think, oh, we're getting something special here. and then just the 2 chords from the C to the F, and that electric guitar arpeggio that I presume is Keith playing, and you've got that slow drum beat with the rim shots and the hi-hat, and you're going, oh, there's some vibe here. And as you say, Mick comes in, and he's singing fantastically, soulfully, and then you've got a chorus, great chorus, and with an organ, and then Lady Gaga comes in, and I wrote, she sings her ass off, doesn't she? She a la Mary Clayton on "Give Me Shelter." I mean, completely in that vibe. And then you've got the horns as well, fantastic horns as well, that just bring it and swell it up, and it's just you've got a kind of false ending at 5 minutes, and which has gone by in a flash, and then the drums continue, and then they Mick says, "Play me something, Stevie," and Stevie goes off on the piano, and they start again, and they pick up the intensity. I mean, it's Stones classic. Surely this is going to be a Stones classic. It's going to be, rated as one of their greatest songs. I think it's right up there in the canon, and up there with "Gimme Shelter" and others. And I too gave it a Brad score, 100 out of 10 from me. Thrilling and spine tingling and all that. When I was driving yesterday in the car. I was going to pick up my youngest from one of their friends, and I was driving across the Somerset Levels. Anybody who knows that will know what I'm talking about. And it's just deeply thrilling. The spine is tingling away, and it just sounds brilliant. And I wasn't dreading. I was interested to see what they would do with Lady Gaga, and I thought they might do some kind of up-tempo thing. But to go to that kind of gospel soul thing, to go back into that tradition and that genre, I think is fantastic. 100 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Brad, sorry, I've left you bugger all, haven't I, with that?
No, I'm glad. I think we're all on the same page with this one. The title of the song, "The Sweet Sounds of Heaven," I mean, that describes the song. I mean, there's not really any other way to describe the song. I really enjoyed it. The piano playing, the guitars, Mick Jagger's voice is incredible. It's got that beautiful laid-back emotive feel with soul. Lady Gaga sounds heavenly. And without touching on everything else you guys have said, I said here, great second last song for the album. Sorry, Simon, your theory's blown out of the water.
I know. With a bit of reshuffling, I could make it so.
That's right. Yeah. And I do think, and I have to say this, it does have a classic Stones vibe about the song. And I too gave it 100 out of 10. Never a skip, gentlemen. Never a skip. Andrew?
No.
So I purposely kept away from listening and watching this, guys, when it was released. I wanted to listen to this in the context of the album. That's what I did. So I didn't have any. I never heard it, and I purposely, kept away from it because, I needed to, if that makes any sense, give it justice because this band is so important to me as a music lover, and the collaborations obviously were important enough for the Rolling Stones, so we had to give it, I think, the best opportunity to hear it properly, and the only way I could do that, Brad and Simon, is in the context of the album. And what a surprise! I'm glad, Simon, that you said, that it starts off, this classic song that the Stones have done, and we've had 2 or 3 starts on this album where Brad said a couple of tracks, I thought we are going to get Tumbling Dice, and wouldn't it have been, but we just didn't, but we got it. We got the full deal, the package on this track, and I'll always be grateful for that. And if there's one track that an album is worth its weight in gold, it's certainly this track for me. Definitely.
worth the price of admission. And that gospel piano, that's so Ray Charles at the beginning, isn't it? Didn't it strike you like that? You think, oh, hello, we're in Ray Charles territory here, and thankfully it doesn't stray out of that territory either. But yeah, amazing track.
Oh, I don't know how many times, Brad, I've listened to it. Yeah.
Did you notice at the end, right at the end, when Lady Gaga and Mick are exchanging, Mick actually goes falsetto on one part.
Yes.
He actually goes into falsetto. He's like, blimey, get up there, Mick.
So
Fantastic.
it'll be interesting to see how they do this on that video too, guys.
Yeah. Pushing Mick beyond.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And how much
again,
of it is live in the studio as well, kind of thing. I've been really interested to see that, how much of it is live in the studio.
Well, yeah. Again, as Brad said, we love seeing this because it gives us that fly on the wall thing, and we wanted to get that with Blue and Lonesome that we didn't get, so we're going to get it with this album. So it's fantastic track. So yeah, I love it. It's just instant favourite. So folks, we get on to the last track of the album, and again, I want to highlight to you, if you want, go and get the latest issue of Guitar Player. Andrew Watts talks about this track in some detail. So I may put that up as a separate video on the channel during the week. I may read that article, that small little piece out, and put it up as a reference point for people, because there is some detail and some information that have gone into this, because they purposely used the guitar that Muddy Waters would have used to record this track. They recorded it the same kind of techniques and style. Mick, when he was playing the harp, he used the same kind of mic that they used into a small little amp, so it was all pretty much period correct. And what was interesting is that, again, Andrew, he's making friends with Keith, and he's asking Keith about, how did you meet Keith? Mick, sorry. And he tells him the story of the railway station, with the Chuck Berry album and the Muddy Waters album, both by Chess Records. And he said, nobody in the UK had these albums. These albums were rare as hen's teeth. And then he said to Mick, he goes, have you ever recorded or done Rolling Stones blues? And Keith said, no, we haven't. So he purposely writes that down in the back of his mind using a crayon, if you're Brad, or the Rock Professor using a digital. Oh, look at him. Oh, look at her. Ooh. Ooh.
With one press, it's gone.
Yeah. There it is. It's gone. And how he thinks, oh, okay, I'm going to get these guys. I'm going to get these guys into recording this, because like a lot of us, he was captivated by that Gimme Shelter footage where they're playing Prodigal Son, and it's the '69 tour, and Keith is looking cool, and he's got the resonator dobro, Brad, and Mick is sitting next to him, and they do a couple of blues numbers. So he thinks, I'm going to capture this on this album. And I think he does a fine job. This is just Keith on guitar, Mick on vocals and harp. It's fantastic. It's the best way to end the album. It's the best way because,
You're reading my notes.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm sorry, bro.
Don't worry. It's all good.
But because
you're not
these
reading
guys
mine.
these guys have to go full circle, don't they? And when you consider how long it was since they released their last album, and a covers album, we're talking about, a bit of period of time. So it's not as if we're going to get. But I understand though, since doing research on this, Brad and Simon, they're in the bloody studio now recording another album.
Oh wow! Really?
Yes.
Well, that's
already.
knocked my theory out of the water, which I'll still tell. But,
Yeah. I go well. So kind of knocked my, because I'm thinking, okay, well this might be it. But so if there's one thing that Andrew has done for old grey bastards like us and blues lovers and young fellas like Brad, is he made them go back and do something that motivated this band in the first place. Got this band together, got these two guys together, and it was a Muddy Waters album, Simon. It was, albums that we talk about weekly. It was, was the catalyst for 29 albums. Phenomenal. Go and listen to the track, folks. It's, So look, is there any surprise about the score that I give this?
4.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Yeah, why not?
Andrew, is it correct? While I've still got you giving your ranking in that, is it correct that this is a particular song that they got the title of the band from, Rolling Stone Blues?
Yeah. So we got to be a little bit careful here because we don't want to reinvent Rolling Stones history because Brian Jones was very familiar with this album too. So it was Brian Jones when he booked the band through a phone. He was talking to some promoters somewhere, and they said, "Okay, yeah, we'll get you. What are we going to call you?" And that's so it was Brian Jones. Who knew the song, but yeah, you're right. It was from this song, bro. That they not the Bob Dylan song, Brad.
No.
All right.
That's like
it's
like
Simon.
that.
It's not
like that.
I've had that conversation with people. I said, no, that band was going a little bit longer, a little bit before that song. Oh, are you sure?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I am sure.
yes, completely. Yes. Like a Rolling Stone is 1965, not 1962. It just isn't.
Brad's score, Rock Professor. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and if we've left. Brad's got a theory. So Brad. So we've got to listen to Brad's theory.
I'll leave it to my ranking. I'm not changing my ranking. So it goes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know whether I had the same theory as you, Brad. To me, this had lots of history in this track, as you've just outlined, Andrew. That kind of thing, the whole thing about going back to things. I felt that there was something kind of rounding off about the whole thing, about just having Keith and Mick play together, just the two of them, the two original Rolling Stones who are still in the band, who've been there all along for 61 years or whatever it is, still playing, just the two of them playing together. And I think it's very, for me, playing Rolling Stone blues, also called Catfish blues, if we're interested, that Andrew Watt took them back to this particular place, just the two of them playing together in that old world electric blues, just a guitar and a harp. It sounds like a room recording to me, and tremendous atmosphere, tremendous vibe to it. And I did feel like that if they never made another album, this would be such a fantastic ending to their recording career. I'm sure they're going to do gigs. But if they're recording another album, then that theory goes out the window slightly. But nevertheless, I still think that, and hats off to him for going back to that, and to Andrew Watt taking them back to just the two of them. And I think there is something really affecting about just the two original Rolling Stones just playing together, jamming out an old blues song that informed their very genes, if you like. The basis of what the whole band is built on, the whole 60 odd years career is built on this, this song and stuff. Whether you gave them the name or not, it doesn't really matter, but it's in there, isn't it, as the name of the band and things. And I think that it's a 10 for me. It's a 10 out of 10 song, absolutely. And an extraordinary bookend to their career, if it is a bookend, but it may not be. So that is good if it's not. But that's my view of it. I thought it's fantastic and worthy of the price of admission. I mean, you got the last two tracks are both amazing tracks in their different way, aren't they? Extraordinary. You get to the end of the album and it's like, wait a minute, God, he waited till the end of the album to put these on. Get in, it's amazing, as if the rest of the album kind of sucks you in, and then you've got these two absolute bona fide classics at the end. So yes, 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Brad, have I ruined your theory?
Kind of. No. That's the joys of going last. It's fine. But I still won't alter what I've got to say, no matter whether someone says it or not already. Because
good man.
The Rolling Stone Blues, I put, is this the final full stop to their career? Obviously, that theory is blown out of the water tonight. But I said, if this ends up being the last studio recorded album, ending with this song, that gave them the name of the band, it's a massive nod to Muddy Waters and quite possibly, a full stop to their recording career. But thank goodness it's not. We've established that tonight already. I've put great vocal, the harmonica, the mix playing, guitar playing from Keith. I love how they've got that distorted vocal to give it the authenticity of that era. And Andrew's already touched on the equipment and whatnot. So without sort of doubling up on what you guys have said, I think it's definitely a massive way to end the record. I love that they've done this. And well done, Andrew Watts, for encouraging them or getting them across the line to do this. It's a 100 out of 10. Never a skip, guys. Great way to end the record. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with you. And thank you, Simon, also, too, for your contributions because, it's a phenomenal piece. And as Stephen's saying, too, in the chat, they're already recording, according to the information that I found out yesterday. They're in the studio. So, it'd be interesting to see what the next track is, I hope, Stephen, and I hope, folks, that they do come out with something because how many times have we heard of artists going in the studio recording something and nothing happens, So if they're on a wave of success, Simon, seeing that this is number one in so many countries, and we know because we've had Richard Fox on, and he's our resident local Rolling Stone nut. He said the Rolling Stones are driven by goals, especially Mick Jagger. He's a goal orientated guy. So if they set goals with this album, Brad, they've achieved it.
Oh yeah. 100%, guys. 100%. The album, and that's the thing. It's got a lot of youthfulness to it, so you kind of forget that these guys are at their age bracket they're in. You kind of forget while you're listening to it. It's, I think the album's got a great edginess to it of modern technology, but it's still the Rolling Stones. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really strong, really, I hate words like return to form, but I agree with, I think it's their best album since their 80s stuff, Tattoo You, Some Girls kind of thing. I absolutely think it's their best album since then. I think it's stronger than certainly Bigger Bang, probably stronger than British to Babylon stuff. It's got more memorable songs on it. I think Andrew Watt brings that kind of modern pop sensibility to it whilst keeping the character of the Stones. I think there's the balance between the two things is really well done. He hasn't taken away the Stones character from them. He hasn't taken away out that stuff is the essence of the Stones, and I think that he does a fantastic job, which is shown by
Voodoo
the fact
Lounge
he's
is
got
good. Voodoo
three.
Lounge is a good album.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a better album than that, though, isn't it? This is a better.
Oh
album
yeah, 100%. Yeah. I rate Voodoo Lounge over Bridges to Babylon and Bigger Bang.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but this is, I think this is it just proves, doesn't it, that sometimes even people who've been making music for 60 years have to keep going at it, and do a bit. No, that's not good enough. Do a bit more and keep going at it until something evolves into it, and I think that's what they've learned from it, isn't it? That you have to keep going at it, keep that creative thing going, and be clear-eyed enough to say when it's not satisfying, and not just put out another record because it's time, kind of thing. I've done 10 songs, let's put them out as an album. Let's try and be better, and I think that kind of that's been done on this record. I think they've absolutely gone and I hope that, I presume Andrew Watt has a lot to do with that, that kind of youthful drive, and if he's been able to say to them, go back and be better, then that's fantastic, really.
And I think
really,
John
really impressed.
ZD351's comment here earlier, guys, that I wanted to highlight a little bit towards the end there about people who don't like Gaga, don't like the stuff, don't like her own music, but she slots them properly with others. Fantastic. And I think, no disrespect to Lady Gaga, guys, I think she's going to be known in rock and roll history more for her collaborations than her pop stuff.
Possibly, yeah. Yep. Possibly. You could be right there. Yep. No, she's got a great voice, guys. She's phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, she clearly knows about the history of it, doesn't it, and can do that kind of thing. And hats off to her for that. I thought she was brilliant. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Cool.
My favourite song. It's my favourite.
Yeah.
Look, it's been a pleasure, obviously, with everybody here hanging out with Brad and I and the Rock Professor. We love getting together, ranking albums. This one's been a contemporary one for us.
Yes.
We don't get to do, Brad, we don't get to do new shit often, do we, bro?
It's a little strange too, guys, because it's like doing something you're not familiar with, where when you say, we're going to rank, Clapton's album, blah, 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 or, Led Zeppelin, or we're going to do like, the Rolling Stones I'm like, piece of cake. I know them.
Yeah, I know.
I don't
Yeah.
Yeah. Where with this one, I had to really sit down and give the album a chance because I have not listened to the album from start to finish until this week. That's the honest truth.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Rock Professor and Brad, thank you guys for jumping on. We're going to end the show. We're at the 2-hour mark. We always sort of want to keep it close to that. It's been great hanging out with you guys. We're going to do a meeting after the show and find out what we're going to be doing next week. If you've not hit the notification button to find out what we're doing, you need to do that for your homework. Brad, have you got the chat up to say goodbye to folks?
I do. I'll say goodbye, everyone. So we have Holly Lewis in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Some, bloke that's, a bit of a rat bag, Simon Williams. Ellen Toll, my mother Ellen, is in the chat as usual. John ZD351, Stephen Fish. We've got Phil Byers. We have got, oops, my computer just went bonkers then. Geez, what's going on? Greg Roberts Tune, thank you for joining us. We have got Quinton James. Quinton's like you said, Simon and Andrew, the stoppering guys. So thank you for joining us, Quinton. Always good to have. We have I'm sorry, I've got a Facebook user here. I don't know who that is, but thank you for joining us.
It's okay. We don't know who it is either. I'll find out after the show. So hello, Facebook user.
yeah, thank you for joining us on Facebook. It's if you don't know, guys, if you're on Facebook, there you can set your notification and watch it through there as well, so you can't, you won't miss out on a show. But I think I've covered everyone else, Andrew, that popped in. I think we had, just check right at the top. I think we've covered everyone, but thank you everyone for joining us. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, please give us a thumbs up and please share our channel, help us grow. We're getting close to our target for the end of the year. It'd be lovely by the end of the year to get to 10,000 subscribers. So I know we can possibly do that with your help. So thank you very much.
Awesome. All right, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Point noted, Holly. Point noted. We have,
Yeah.
we're into rock and roll. Well,
Yeah.
we celebrate women rock and rollers as well.
Yes, we do.
We've done Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. We've had a Tina Turner show special.
Oh, we should do something. She's right.
All right, let's go.
Take it away, Eric, the orchestra leader.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.